Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mandy Speaks Up podcast episode today with our special guest host, Diana Estrella. She's going to be talking about identities and so many identities that we carry. We actually form and create our lives from these identities. But what we don't realize as we actually begin to live from these identities that come from so many other things from outside of ourselves. And if we want to go really deeper, we can even talk about how these identities can present themselves because of ancestral lineages, our bloodlines that have gone through and we're affected by so much, especially so many things that are going on today in this world. It can be very similar to the things that our own very ancestors actually lived through as well. And so now they can come and bring a remembrance through our blood, and we can feel a lot of these identities. So, this is going to be a really good episode to hear Diana's thoughts and takes on what she has prepared for us. So please be very mindful that there are those that listen, and there are things going on in the world that can be just hurtful and painful. And so we want to speak with gentleness and compassion, but we also want to speak with truth. So I want to welcome everybody who's listening and who will be listening. Thank you so much for supporting. And as we go forward, Diana's going to go ahead and share what she has for you. So I just want to thank Diana so much for being here, for speaking her truth, for who she is and where she's come from. We all carry stories, and so it's a very powerful and it's very honorable to be able to come forward and share what you have. Like it's an honor and it's a privilege and it's such a beautiful thing because as you speak, you're speaking for those that you have come from, those that, your own bloodline. So they celebrate you as well. So let's give it up for Diana Estrella. Yay.
Thank you so much, Mandy. I am really grateful to have this opportunity to be on this podcast with you because, um, so much is going on in the world right now, and it brings up a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings and sentiments. And for those of us, such as like myself, that grew up in an environment where we were not taught how to, express our emotions in the most healthy way, we end up saying things that can come off as really hurtful, and you never know how what you might end up saying, how it can affect the other person. And so this is a beautiful opportunity. I'm so honored to be able to share this wisdom that I want to say, like, I'm still even learning myself because it's almost like something that you have to catch. So I come from a Mennonite community, and yeah, emotions were not really something that were spoken of very much, much less expressed, but I've always been such a expressive person. My issue was that I did not really express in the best ways, and I don't doubt that I have hurt people with the things I have said, and I also realized how many identities I carry based on what people told me, that I now realize, oh wow, that's actually not me. It was actually by how they felt. So, um, identity is a big topic with many deep categories. This one is specifically about feelings expressed as identities. Um, as I mentioned, most people did not learn how to express and communicate feelings, so sometimes it can come off as almost like an identity. So, common example, it's kind of like, let's say you were called annoying, like, oh, you're so annoying. But in reality, what if that person that called you annoying, for example, they were just annoyed by a situation, but the way they expressed it was, you're annoying. And so it took some practice and realization of even myself, of blockages of, where are these identities coming from? And most of the time they come from something that was said to me, and it was probably from how they were feeling at the time that turned into an identity, or kind of like labeling people, but based on how their feelings, their emotions. Um, so yeah, to I want to start off also by saying how powerful people's voices and the way you say things does matter, and making a difference in the world, starting with oneself and through kindness, I think is very important, because with everything that is happening in the world, we should not be attacking each other, and I don't want to necessarily should, but I think it's really important for us to feel the liberty and freedom and safety to express how we are feeling, but with respect and without being offensive, because at the end, Cuiraba, we are all one. And yeah, so yeah, so growing up, even our own parents, bless their hearts. I know they love us in the best way that they can, but you know how they say that children don't come with instructions sometimes. And unfortunately, even by our own parents, we were called probably something like, oh, you're so lazy, or, you know, why can't you be, in a comparison? But probably the parent is just frustrated because they have to get to work on time, or they're having their own issues. And sometimes things are being said, even by our own friends, that we end up taking it in and turning it into a part of us. And it's not until later on, until we realize where it came from, that how much is affecting you. Like, for example, from my own personal experience, now that, like, considering that I'm on a podcast right now, being seen is a little scary for me because I was told I am weird and crazy many times in my life. So, and that is okay, because now I realize that yes, I'm very different from what people are used to, and that's how they were feeling, and it came off as you're weird, which now I'm starting to learn to feel better about myself, like being on this podcast today, which again, Randy, thank you so, so much for allowing me to be here today. And I did come up with a few steps. Honestly, I think it's a total of 3 max. So the first step is the realization, which brings awareness to ourselves of what identities we carry that come from emotions from others and how they might be blocking us. So let's say, for example, if you feel insecure or unsafe to be yourself, maybe it's because somebody called you weird at some point, or if you lack confidence in coming up with ideas and actually acting on them, you might feel maybe the lack of confidence because somebody once told you that your ideas don't work. And just because they express that doesn't mean it's true, even though we, you know, even subconsciously took them on. But in reality, maybe that person just saw your ideas with lack of understanding, and in return they said something like, oh, that doesn't sound like a good idea. But I guess my main point is to identify, um, to become aware, is by asking every time that you catch yourself saying, I am this or I am that. So for example, let's say I am a burden. If I'm catching myself saying that, and again, I invite you guys to be able to practice this yourself if you um would like to. But if you say something like I am, for example, just use for now a burden, I get to ask, okay, why am I saying this? Is something I am choosing and wanting for myself, or where is this coming from? And from there, once you are aware, you may ask, well, how does this make me feel? Well, it doesn't feel good to feel like a burden. And you can ask, is this what I want? No, of course not. I don't want to be a burden. And the beauty in that realization is now you have the power to choose. Um, like, for example, if the answer is no, like in this case, to ask, well, what do I want? What do I choose to be? Well, I want to be a blessing. I want to be a healer. I want to be kind, not a burden. Then you get to ask yourself, well, how do I become and embody this starting today? Because just like how we take on identities that are not ours, we can even use titles like I am kind and not actually act or embody kindness. So Um, but of course, there are some I am examples, like I am kind, right? And you can ask yourself the same question. Well, how does this make me feel? It feels good to be kind, okay? Well, is this what I want? Yes, I want to be kind. So if the answer is yes to those questions of your I am, you can ask, how does this serve me? Which is kind of interesting because I think this is a also a really cool question to ask if your answer is yes, to either realign and reinforce your belief or to realize it's actually not serving me after all. So, for example, let's continue using kindness. If I say, how does kindness make me feel? It makes me feel really good. Is this what I want? Yes, this is how I want. How is this serving me? Well, if I am kind, people will love me. And asking yourself those questions can help you even realize, well, is that serving me? Or can I choose to be kind so that instead, I choose to be an example that I want to see in the world? So, yes or no questions, I think can be helpful in giving the power of choice, which is ultimately the biggest message that I want to share with this podcast, quite honestly. None of this validates the hurtful things that have been said to us or that we even said to other people. Um, but what I really would like for people to take from this is to regain power of self and the power of choosing, because hurt people don't have to hurt people. If we hurt people because we were hurt, we're giving away our power and lowering ourselves to their level. It's not truly like making a difference or serving really any true purpose in your life. I think it's actually blocking you from reaching your full potential. And we gain back our power when we use our will to choose to be the example we want to see. So that's why this topic is very important for me to share, because I don't doubt that so many of us carry these deep wounds with our identity. I feel like it's one of the biggest collective wounds that we are experiencing, the constant, trying to live up to something or realizing that we're living a life that we didn't even actually want to live. It's to live up to something or because of some program, but also it's to this realization of, wow, this was said to me like I am weird, but in reality I'm just different to them. Also allows us to realize, okay, how am I communicating my feelings and making sure that I am saying how I feel without coming off as an attack or disrespect. um and also to not really hurt the other person, because the win-win mentality can be so powerful. So if something says, like, something that can come off as mean, instead of saying, oh, you're so mean, don't get me wrong, some people do have bad intentions. I don't want to give anybody excuses, but ultimately the way you're being affected, it's important to ask yourself, okay, is this person just angry right now, or is this truly who I am? And what do I choose? Because let's say you come to realize, oh, well, maybe I am being mean because I am angry. That awareness is so much power because, again, how does this make me feel? Well, I don't like that I'm being mean. Well, what do I want? I want to be kind. Or how is being mean serving me? Well, it's not serving me well because now things got really intense, or I said something that ended up not actually meaning at the time. I was just angry. So then what do I choose? Well, I choose to embody kindness, and it's almost like healthy to own up to how you're being, or choosing to see that the other person is almost like letting them be as they are without taking on an identity that does not belong to you. So I would like to really quickly go through these steps. I know I said a lot and probably really quickly. As I mentioned earlier, I'm still working on being seen because of things that were said to me, which is why I'm sharing this with you guys, because I am just as human as everybody else and learning all these things just with everybody else. Um, but my genuine intention is for you to discover that you have the power of will and you have the power to choose, and you don't have to hurt because you are hurt. And so come to realize, what identities are you carrying that came from people's emotions? Was there a moment that your parents were angry at you, that maybe your friend was not being understanding, or even the random stranger, they're dealing with their own stuff and they made a comment that you took on? What are those things that you're carrying right now? And any voices that you may hear, become an observer of them and ask yourself the question of, how does this make me feel? And what do I want? And also just throughout the day, anytime you catch yourself saying, well, I am blank, ask yourself these same questions. How does this make me feel? And what do I want? And if the answer is yes, this is what I want, well, how does it serve me? And if the answer is no, well, what do I want? And what do I choose? And how do I become and embody this starting today? Because regardless of your past, thankfully, the present is a present, and you have the power of now to choose who you want to be. In fact, the moment you have these realizations, you're already given the gift of choice, which is extremely, extremely powerful. And basically, that is it. I made this, I think, pretty a really simple and short guide. I will say I don't doubt that there are so many questions because there's so many different types of situations, but this is meant to be short and sweet, but hopefully still helpful. And of course, I am on social media, and if you have further questions, I'm more than happy to answer them through comments or messages. But for now, I would like to close off with like a guided meditation. Um, Wherever you are, this is going to be pretty short, but wherever you may be right now, you can take a few deep breaths. You can envision yourself in your favorite place, preferably outside. It can be in a field, it can be next to a creek, it can be by the beach. And then there's this beautiful cooling breeze that comes from behind you. And keep breathing into that. And that cooling breeze, it's almost like a hug, flows from behind you. And with every breath that you exhale, your breath becomes part of the wind that just gets drifted away. It becomes unreachable, but there's some soothing and comfort to that. That every breath you take and release, it becomes part of the wind. It's almost like it takes care of it. So on your next deep breath, I would like for you to envision any words that come up right now that are like identities, even the voices of those people that gave you those identities. And as you exhale, release it into the wind. Envision those words coming out from your mouth with your breath and becoming part of the wind, and when wind just carries it off into the universe. You can't do anything about it. It's taken care of. You can continue taking those breaths. And with every exhale, You vision more of those identities and more of those hurtful words, and envision them just being carried by the wind. The universe is taking care of them. And when you feel comfortable, when you feel complete, you can envision with a deep breath the cooling wind flowing through your body, cooling your body down. Because sometimes those words can be so painful and cause so much anger and so much feeling. The body gets so heated. But with every breath in sync with that wind, you can envision that cooling sensation. And every breath, envision those words along with the voice, the feeling, even the taste. You can exhale it and release it with the wind for it to carry it off to the universe. And I just admit, like, this can be done for as long as you need to, until you feel complete, until you feel whole and cool with the nurturing wind. And the reason why I brought up wind is because in this season, fall is coming. And wow, this is when all the leaves on trees are starting to get ready to let go of the trees. And it's beautiful. I love envisioning the trees kind of like if the leaves were the old identities of trees. Once the trees are ready to release the leaves that no longer absorb the sunlight to nourish the body of the tree, the wind is what kind of ends up causing for the leaves to let go of the tree. So I've been connecting a lot with the wind to help release my leaves, my release my old identities. And of course, this can be applied with other forms of identity, not just things that were said to you by other people's emotions. Um, and you can practice this as long as you want, but even 5 minutes of your day, even in the moment, if something was said to you that, oh, kind of hurts your ego, even your identity or some part of you, and it makes you question, is this who I am? Or like, that's not who I am. You can literally envision the power of the wind flowing within you and release it out with your breath and let the universe literally just take care of it for you. Um, We deserve liberation from pain always, and we can start by giving that to ourselves. And yeah, that's my main message for today. And I hope this serves everybody in the best possible way. Get in tune with your hearts as much as possible. Again, I can't repeat this enough. You don't have to hurt people because you're hurt. You have the power of choosing, you have the power of will, you have the power of awareness, and the power to literally be the example that you wish to see in the world. And that's basically the most healing effect that you can give to yourself and for others. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Diana. That was amazing. And I love how the meditation was so amazing as well.
Thank you. I
Yes.
yeah, I hope this is applicable to every day-to-day experience, because I know the world is also really busy. Some people have kids, jobs, waking up and going, but even on a car ride, anytime you catch those little moments of identity where you catch yourself saying, I am something, especially when something very meaningful is coming up, these questions I feel like can be very, very helpful to reflect and give yourself some sort of inner peace and relief so you can continue on with your day and practice sovereignty.
Yes, the power of I am. I mean, those two words can change your day, I think. I mean, I wake up some mornings and I literally be like, I am, and use those words to bring a powerful message to create that for my life. So, can you imagine how many times we've said I am and we actually just repeated something that somebody had told us, out of whatever they were going through, and we spoke that, and then we create our day from that, or we create our life from that, and it's really sad.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, even myself, as I openly admitted, right? I used the example of I am a burden because that has been one of the biggest identities I've had to heal in my life because of things that were said to me, and it's because some people were just unavailable and they just did not know how to express themselves in a healthy way. So by mentioning that, actually, I want to really quickly mention when communicating your feelings. I'm not saying that this is the way, but something I've been personally practicing as best as I can is to express myself by saying, hey, I feel this, instead of saying, you did that or you made me feel this way. I've been as best as I can, you know, practicing this to be intentional about making sure that the other person I'm communicating to knows that I'm communicating what I am feeling and what I'm experiencing based on whatever they said or did, so that they don't take it as an attack, or so they don't take it as me labeling them. But again, this is something that I am still practicing. Nobody's perfect, but I think that's a healthy form of communication that I have found so far that I think could be helpful for people as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You definitely brought so much self-awareness. And if anything, I feel like that's a lot of the structure of what you were saying, is like having that self-awareness to know that, who we are and what our intentions are, and wanting to, heal even the things that the identities, healing from those identities and realizing that we're not those identities, and we actually can form our own by, having a healthier structure, and then passing that to our own children or those that we love around us. So thank you again so much, Diana. Thank you so much for the meditation. I appreciate you. I appreciate all those that commented and watched. Continue to speak up, and also share this episode. Thank you so much for being a special guest host. It was beautiful. It was an honor.
Thank you. And one last thing. I'm so sorry. I just thought about this. You
Go for it.
are allowed to communicate boundaries too. If somebody tells you you're annoying, you are allowed to say, no, I am not annoying. You're just annoyed by something I did or a situation. And I think that's a healthy boundary. I felt really important. I felt that to be very important to communicate as well. It's not okay to just take on what people are telling you in your face. So just want to make that clear.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Boundaries. Boundaries is a huge thing, because some people are going to say what they're going to say, and we can't control that, whether they're coming from a good place or not. Like, you can't control that. But having our own boundaries, I mean, that we can control.
Exactly. Yeah. No, this is a very, very deep topic. It can go on for a long, long time, but
Oh,
I hope you
definitely.
know for what it
It,
is. And
it
again,
really
thank you
can.
so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. And I just want to share, like, I know, sharing our opinions, like, we have the freedom to do that, and and it's just taking that for what it is, because not my truth, it may not be your truth may not be somebody else's truth, and that's okay. Like, it's fine. We can't change anybody, but we can also know that when it comes down to just like humanity in general, of like knowing that at the end of the day we all bleed the same like red blood, and we're meant to be like in community, and that was taken from us, from from the system and from how they created it. I mean, we can go deeper into that too, but
Yep.
it
Yep.
it coming back to community, and really focusing on what is really love, and like being there for people, but also being able to be like, I don't agree with that, and I don't agree with that, and if you're not okay me not agreeing with that, that's like on them, because you know what I mean? But also knowing that if it
Exactly.
isn't with the love of humanity, if something that you're standing up for isn't coming down to the love of humanity, I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like that's where a lot of the back and forth goes from, because it's like, the it's just like I love people.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. But everybody is a free-willed being, and it's basically a human right to have your own opinion, your own truth, but as long as there is respect and kindness and yeah, having different opinions is technically necessary. We can't all think the same.
But the thing is that the identities the identities is what's coming from from a lot of the stuff that people will say or like stand up for, like, and if it's not connected to like just love for humanity, a lot of it is it's not even coming from their own identities. I mean, for example, for me, like when I was in religion and I was inside of a religious cult, like I stood up for a lot of things that were not really who I was. Like they were not my authenticity, but I was taking from these identities that I was indulged and I was drenched in these identities, and I would say this is who I am, and I would stand up for things that were not connected to the love for, and it
It's,
wasn't, but I thought it was, and I hurt a lot of people by standing up for things that in reality it wasn't from love and it wasn't from myself. It was just taken from these identities from these other people that I could trust or that I thought I respected. And then once I got out of there and I looked back at it, I'm like, none of that was me. Like the only thing that was me was what came from love and what came from compassion and what came from authenticity.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think this is why this awareness can be so powerful because if you're coming off as love and you're not receiving it, something that I find catchy that I like to say to myself constantly is if it doesn't feel right, it's not light. Um, if there's an ick with something that is said, more than likely it's not coming from a place of the heart. Um,
Like the other person, if they're feeling that.
it's a two-way street, right? If
Right.
even when you say something, like
Sometimes I feel,
yeah, if it's not coming from from if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't come from a place of the heart, I almost feel like most of the time when I say something that I that didn't come from a place of the heart, I almost immediately after feel the ick of like, that didn't feel right. Um, and
yeah.
vice versa, when I receive a comment that doesn't feel right, that already tells me it probably did not come from the best intention. And it's just important to at least give to yourself
Yeah.
that
And
you
sometimes I feel like we may say something that, or somebody else may say something if they're coming from the right place and with love, and it could sometimes maybe feel like ick, but actually I feel like sometimes it's because that might have cut through one of our identities that we've been carrying, and we actually feel like they're hitting us with their comment, but in reality it's actually hitting through the wall of the authenticity that we've built up against. And so sometimes we need to be around people that we trust and we hold so much respect for. So with that, if they do, that's why like mentorships and things like that are very good, because they can say something to you and that might cut through and it may feel like it's like a comment that wasn't right, but in reality it actually just hit through one of those identities that we've been living through.
Yep.
And so that would bring self-awareness to be like, oh wait a minute, like I think that was just one of my identities that I've been carrying that are ready to be put down. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. It comments and identities can serve in so many different ways, like that. I think there's no wrong way, I think, of how to become aware of anything. Like in this case, an identity, it might feel like an ick, but actually serve you well and serve you to grow and come to realize and become aware, which that is perfectly okay too, which is why I came up with the questions of how does this make me feel? What is this what I want and how does it serve me? And then what do I want and choose and how do I become and embody this starting today? Because yeah, you never know when somebody might tell you something that might hurt your ego and you come to realize, oh, that's just an ego. It's not who I actually am. And it might be liberating.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so true. This is so good because it really does bring up that awareness of like what is really me. Like because we're supposed to go through deaths and rebirths all the time. We're supposed to. So honestly, if you're the same person that you are, if you're the same person that you've been since you were like 5 years old, like something's not right. Like
Yeah.
you are meant you are and even from 2 years ago, even when I escaped the cult in 2018, that person who I am today is totally different. The only thing I kept was everything that was of authenticity and truth and love. Anything that wasn't, I gave it up. I knew those weren't my identities. They came from old belief patterns, old structures, systems that were, created to make us, make me believe that I didn't have enough power to stand up for myself. Whether it's social conditioning or even cultural things, even family, even beliefs from the family systems, from ancestral passed down. All of that creates your identities, and if you are still stuck in the same thought process that you've had for the last like 10 years and you've not had a rebirth, like if you're stuck in the same, like something is not right. If you still, because you're meant to change. You are meant to change. You're meant to think your thought process into more and more authenticity. You're supposed to be getting closer to authenticity and away from old identities. Like I feel like that's one of the main things in life, and if that isn't happening, for me it's easy to see through that when somebody's like talking, and even if what they're saying I don't agree with and it's hateful, in my mind it's like, well, they're still like the same person. Like nothing I say is going to change it. So let them stay stuck in that, because I've already been through so much rebirths that I understand that some people are just stuck in their conditioning.
Yeah. And like you said, the belief that we don't have power, that's exactly one of the, I think, main illusions also going on right now. A lot of people think that they don't have the power to choose who they want to be, and they do. But that's something that you give to yourself. Like if you wouldn't have given that to yourself, you would have remained in the cult. You wouldn't have evolved. You're like, no, this is not who
Right.
I am. And that's what gave you the power to come out of that to evolve. And I want
Yes.
people to realize that they do have a power. The lack of power to be yourself is an illusion, but a lot of people, unfortunately, right now, they know exactly the right words to say to trigger the belief that you don't have power.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly that. And that's the part that can get heavy, is that you're who are you? Like ask that question yourself. Who are you? What do you carry that's actually yours? Like if you had to put down every belief or identity that you received from your parents, from grandparents, from history that that your ancestors took a part of, if you had to put all of that down, who would you be? Like, and
Exactly.
coming from that like a flower that you plant into soil and there's nothing there, and all of a sudden it starts blooming. What is that flower? Who are you? What do you carry about yourself? What do you believe about yourself without the what you have learned and taken from others as your own? Who are you? Because that's what I had to do when I
Mm-hmm.
escaped the cult. I had to find out what I liked without the opinions of them. What did I like without religion? What did I like without believing everything that I had once believed? And that's extremely hard to have to break through everything. That it's too scary. I mean, there's
Yeah.
people inside of that same cult that I escaped. They've been in there since they were babies, and they're still there. They're 50, 60 years old. They're still there. Their mind patterns have not shifted or changed. And if you try to say anything that they stand firm on, even though it's not love, it is not coming from love, they'll spit in your face. They're not going to take, they're not going to believe anything. Like, and you're like, you've been believing that for the last 60 years, and probably your ancestors did too. You still are not changing those mind patterns? Like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes that's just the most comfortable thing to do. Um, but again, yeah, just like for example, that cult, the hurtful things that they did, instead of choosing to be hurtful because you got hurt, you became a healer. And that's exactly
Yes.
what I want to, the love I want to spread in the world is that you don't have to hurt because you got hurt. Some people think, oh, they hurt me, so I must hurt back, and that's the only way I'm gonna win. But you're not. You're just feeding more wood to the fire of anger and hate. Like the way that you evolved was not not by doing that, you know. I Yeah, like you could have easily become a really hateful person. You could have easily become
Mm-hmm.
somebody that would spread anger, you know, but instead you became this incredible healer that even, you know, inspired me. And so
Mm.
that's why I'm really grateful to be here today because I I want to choose to be the example I want to see in the world, not to hurt because I feel hurt. Because otherwise we're all just gonna be hurting each other.
Exactly. I feel like also like if we see if we I don't know, I just am really big on community, and I think that like if we see the things that have been done on the land as if they were like our children or our sisters or our brothers, I think it wouldn't be so much as like old history. It would actually be it would feel more real to us.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I get so passionate, but thank you so much for bringing the self-awareness of the identities. And I feel like if anything, everybody out there, you can do is just begin to ask yourself, like, who am I? When you wake up in the morning, who am I? Like, who am I and what do you want to be without what you may have been, what has been placed on you from, you know, anybody outside of you, and figure out what is it that you would really want to be, or what identities would you really want to carry and hold with love and respect and compassion.
Exactly. Do things with love. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Do you have anything else to say before we say bye?
No, no, just remember that you do have a choice and love always wins. I truly believe that.
And where can they find you and connect with you, Diana?
The best way to connect with me is on Instagram. I do currently have a Facebook, still getting better on keeping track of that a little bit better, but Instagram would be the best way to reach me. It's Joyful Hummingbird Diana. I can probably put in the comments if possible. And I'll be also posting this on my profile with the link to this podcast. So hopefully people can reach me through there as well.
Beautiful, perfect. Yes, I would recommend them connecting with you. Your story is amazing. And as, also a fellow, BIPOC, I appreciate hearing your voice. And thank you so much for speaking up. Until next time.
Thank you. Until next time.
Of
Bye.
course. Bye.